And we are live. Welcome to the second episode of Coddcast, though all men do despise us. My name is Kyle. I'm joined here today with Paul. Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's Sunday night, so of course I'm good. Game of
Yeah.
Thrones Day. So I guess we'll just kind of get right into it. The past two episodes have been pretty insane, and we kind of weren't planning this episode for the viewers who are out there. But yeah, we weren't planning it. We were thinking about doing one at the end of the season, but then just so much happened in these past two episodes that we felt compelled to do one. So we'll get started with kind of an ease into the whole thing we're going to do here, and we're going to talk about Bran's vision that he had at the beginning of episode 6. There were a lot of things that he saw there. Some were, things that we as show viewers had seen, like the Red Wedding, Ned's execution, stuff like that. But there was some stuff that we kind of saw through Bran's eyes for the first time. One of those things was Jaime killing Aerys. I guess what were your thoughts on that? Just, I mean, I think we saw Aerys saying burn them all. We saw Jaime stabbing him, and then we saw Jaime sitting on the throne. So that's kind of how Ned describes it in the book. What do you think was the meaning behind that?
That's a good question. I think that for one thing, to visualize kind of the story that has been told by both Ned and Jaime, show the viewers kind of what was going on. But as far as the purpose of Bran seeing it, it could be a warning as far as letting the Targaryens come back and rule.
Okay.
A warning, like this is what happened the last time the Targaryens ran the realm, and with as we'll get to later with Dany kind of looming, maybe that's why he was meant to see that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's definitely a good guess, which is basically all we can really do at this point. Um, I kind of think that they're all a little tied together here, and I have four sub points. We had the Aerys scene. We had Ned and Lyanna, which was Ned saying, "Where's my sister?" And then we see her like cradling what appears to be like a stab wound, which I don't know why someone would have stabbed a pregnant lady. We see a dragon over King's Landing, which could have been way in the past, Bran seeing it, or it could have been something that Bran has seen in the future. And then we see wildfire kind of erupt in King's Landing, which is either an alternate reality thing or it's something that is going to happen in the future. So I guess those all are related to Targaryen things. So could it be a warning for Bran that someone's going to use the wildfire that's hidden under King's Landing to basically blow it up? And by someone, I mean Cersei.
I mean, given what we've seen her do in the past as far as being short-sighted, and I mean, she ordered wildfire being made and all that, wouldn't put it past her. One thing I will say real quick about the dragon is I lean towards that being a future thing, because if it was centuries in the past, I think King's Landing would have looked a little different. And it's like very clearly like the modern version of King's Landing.
Right. I think because for the time, it would have been like 300 years ago,
Right.
when a dragon that big was last in King's Landing, because Drogon is the biggest dragon in like I think 200 years according to the books, because as they conquered King's Landing, the dragons got smaller and smaller, and that's detailed in the books pretty well. So I think it would be Drogon flying over King's Landing, which means we have some very fun scenes to look forward to in seasons 7 and 8. So Bran's vision had a lot going on in it, but it also was just on the back of him being able to change the past in a way. It was like a time loop. So that time loop obviously just kind of blew our minds completely. Do you think that no matter what Bran does, King's Landing would burn in wildfire and a dragon would fly over it? Or is there a way that he can prevent those things from happening if he had seen them happen in his dreams?
I think that any future is more of a probability than a certainty. and that, yeah, like maybe he could. And what I go back to is Melisandre and her visions in the fires. You know, she saw a future, and maybe it was a plausible future, but it ended up not being the future that occurred, even though there were some correct nuggets in there. And so while this is obviously a different kind of magic, a different kind of foresight, I do think that it's more likely, I don't think that the future things he sees are set in stone.
Okay. Yeah, and that can make sense. I know Melisandre in the books, I don't remember her saying it in the show, but at one point she says to Stannis, "All I see is snow," which is definitely an allusion to the fact that Jon could be Azor Ahai, because that's what she's trying to see in the flames, or that's what she claims Stannis to be. So I think that when you're viewing these images, the ones in the past are probably warped. Like we saw, because Ned had told Bran that he had killed, what was it? I'm blanking on his name right now. Arthur Dayne. Arthur Dayne, yeah. He had killed him honorably, basically, but he kind of left out the detail that, blanking on name again. Help me out.
Oh my goodness. Howland Reed.
Yeah, thank you. He kind of left out the fact that Howland Reed stabbed him in the back of the neck through the throat. That's kind of a major thing you'd put in there. So I think Bran is realizing that all the stories that he has heard when he was growing up are not true. He's kind of seeing what is either the truth, or it could be a distorted reality of what like the children want him to see, because it's all happening through the Weirwood net, and that's like a sci-fi thing that I don't want to get into right now. But yeah, there's a lot going on with Bran, and I'm excited to see what his role is in the next couple of seasons, because we have no idea.
I do have one more thing. I just realized we've heard Jaime's side of the story as far as him killing the Mad King. Bran never has. So he's seeing for the first time that Jaime was doing it to save King's Landing.
Right. Right.
And that like just occurred to me that even though it's not new to us, it is new to Bran.
Right. And I think that's one thing we always forget, is that Jaime told that to Catelyn and Brienne. He didn't tell that to anyone else.
Right. No, it's not the accepted narrative.
Yeah. So that's why, like, at least I have an attachment to Jaime, is because I know he's probably the most honorable character in Game of Thrones. Because he forsake one of his vows, but it was to protect the people in the city.
Right.
Otherwise, he and everyone in that city that he had ever interacted with would have died.
Yeah.
And I think he's even honorable in the fact that if Ned is the true father of Jon, then Ned basically went against his marriage vows. Jaime has never taken anyone else except for Cersei. Right. So in a way, he's more honorable, even though Cersei's kind of dishonorable in that situation. He's only ever been with the woman he loves. So just a little random bit, but that's why I really like Jaime, is because he's like, this pariah to a lot of people, but he's probably the best intentioned character in the entire show.
Absolutely, I would agree with that.
Okay, so kind of moving on, but also kind of not. At the end of episode 6, even though we found out it was pretty obvious in the beginning of episode 6 who it was, we found out that Benjen was alive, which is, he's been missing since like 1994 for a lot of us, which is, when I was like 1 or 2. So, so Benjen is Cold Hands in this show, which that is not canon from the book. They're kind of combining roles there. But what do you think the odds are for Benjen to return in the books? And what do you think his role is going to be in the fight against the White Walkers?
See, in the books, I almost feel like he has to come back as a white or not at all. Because I don't see another like possibility for him, really. Maybe that's just a lack of imagination on my part, but that's all I see. Whereas in the show, I don't know. I can't see him crossing the wall. Maybe he returns to the Night's Watch, but I doubt they'd accept him as like an undead.
I don't think he can cross the wall. because of the magical forces that the wall entails.
Right.
Because he was his heart, and if we're doing show canon, his heart was pierced by the dragon glass or the whatever it's called, and that would make him like half White Walker, and the White Walkers can't pass as long as the wall is up.
Right.
So I think, and there's a lot of theories going around that the wall is going to fall down, just based off of loose connections, like summer died and winter is coming, and John basically told. Wow, blanking on names all over the place today. What's his name? The really morbid guy.
Oh, Dolores Ed?
Yeah, he told Ed, don't let the wall fall down while I'm gone.
Oh, so, yeah.
and people are like, oh, well, what comes between summer and winter? Fall. So I don't know. Maybe people are reading into it too much, and I think they definitely are, but that's definitely a possibility, that the wall is going to come down either at the end of this season, which would be insane.
Too soon. I don't know. There's a lot of other stuff going on, and I think that they'd have to put a lot of work in the next, 3 episodes to set that up.
But everything's moving so fast. I wouldn't be surprised if Danny was in Westeros by the end of this season. The way that everyone has Littlefinger's jetpack now. Yeah. So moving on to kind of a duller topic, but still really cool because we haven't seen this at all. Sam and Gilly went to Hornwood.
Yes.
Or yeah, that's what it's called, right?
I believe so.
Okay. And we got to see Randall Tarley really for the first time. What did you think of the show's, the actor's portrayal of Randall Tarley? Did it fit your expectation of what the book kind of laid out, or was it a little off?
I actually thought it fit pretty well, in my opinion. He's a hard man who just is... I mean, there's just not really much love in his heart. And even, with his prodigal son returned and a baby and everything, like he was from the beginning, I think just wanted a reason to get them out and then found it with her being a wildling. But I don't think that he was ever excited to have Sam back. And again, it was his wife, Sam's mother, as was the case when Sam first lived there, who was happy to have him and took care of him and was welcoming and all that.
Absolutely, yeah. And I don't necessarily think he was looking for a reason to get them out of there, but I know he definitely wasn't pleased that Sam was there.
Right.
Just based off of his table manners. And obviously everything we know about Randall Tarley from Sam is that he is a dick, basically. It's interesting to see what will happen because, he took Heartsbane, or no, what's it called?
Yeah, Heartsbane.
Okay.
Huge mistake. Huge mistake. Like, Randall would have let you go and not chased, but you took the family sword.
And he knows where he's going. He's got to go to Old Town.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand the logic behind Sam there, who's typically one of the brightest characters in the show. I wouldn't say he's the most cunning, but now I think he's the stupidest character in the show. He could have got out of there no problems at all, but I just wanted that family sword.
What are you going to do with a Valyrian steel sword at the Citadel?
He could be playing a long con and trying to take it back to the wall with him once he becomes a maester, but that's a really long con, and the wall might be gone by the time he's back, especially with Ed in charge. So... I honestly don't know what's going on with Sam and Gilly and their ridiculously young child for how long it's been since it was born. So,
and if there's one thing you learn, it's that babies change like week over week over week, and somehow this one has stayed a baby for 2 years.
Yeah, especially because Walda went through a pregnancy in like 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So. I don't know. Maybe that was like a fat joke or something, but yeah, bad show. You need to get your facts straight. this one's going to be a little longer because there's a lot of moving parts here. But let's just talk about the entire King's Landing situation. Everything from the High Sparrow to the little note that Marjorie may have given Lady Olenna tonight. I don't know if everyone saw that, but I know you and I definitely both picked up on it. And I guess the first question I'm going to ask is Marjorie really pious now, or is she a schemer still?
No. She's playing a game. Marjorie's always got an angle, and it kind of seemed like it last episode, but the passing of the note to Lady Olenna today was, to me, the ultimate sign that, like, she's up to something beyond what is currently on the surface.
All right, so my sub-question, since I knew you were going to answer it that way, what in the hell does that note say? Like, what could she have possibly wanted to pass on to her grandmother that would change everything that she would be risking that much for?
I'm not sure. Like, that's where I'm stuck, is that I can tell she has something going on in her mind, and I can tell there's an ulterior motive, but I don't have the foggiest clue what it is yet, except that it's going to lead to her acquiring more power.
And my thing is, Cersei is normally the big, power player in King's Landing, and she seems just MIA this season. Is she playing a really long con, or is she just taking the winter off?
I mean, I think to some degree she just doesn't have influence anymore. And that makes it really hard. She can't get, because, she's not doing stuff herself. She's finding people who are loyal to her family name and to her title and kind of spinning them to her ends. And at this point, who does she, other than Jaime, who does she have who's going to jump when she asks them to?
Qyburn. That's my only person.
Right. And he got her Sir Robert Strong.
Right.
And has his network of spies and all that. And so I guess, it's clear that she's still making moves, but she just can't do it on the scale that we saw in previous seasons.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to ask you kind of a cryptic question so that show watchers will still be surprised if it happens, but book readers will also know what we're talking about. The epilogue of A Dance with Dragons. You're familiar with what I'm talking about? It was from the perspective of Kevin Lannister.
Okay, yeah.
Do you think that has a chance of happening still?
Hold on, I need to refresh.
Okay,
give me.
Yeah. Because I don't want to give it away for the show watchers because they've been loyal, but the book readers will know what I'm talking about.
This is way long-winded.
Here,
it's on the
wiki,
so it's shorter than actually reading it. But it's sorry.
I'm DMing you right now, so look in your.
That would be better. Yeah, sorry this is high quality radio right here. But yeah, no, my memory for that specific scene is not what it could be. Oh, come on.
It just sent.
Okay.
Should put on a song or something.
Yes. I absolutely think that could come to pass. Without getting,
it's really hard to say anything without giving it away. But like, those are some main people there, and that would change a lot of what's going on in King's Landing.
And it speaks to the question you just asked me too. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I think that yes, there is a possibility of that still happening.
Okay, yeah, and I agree, and I look forward to. If it happens, I expect it to be the end scene of episode 10.
Yes.
Unless there's just something even more massive than that, which, knowing Game of Thrones, it'll probably be the opening scene of the next episode.
Right.
Because chaos. So.
Right, and that's one weird thing about, being off book for this season. It's just like you don't have any idea as to the structure or the timeline. Like, it's all just coming.
Right. One last question about the King's Landing situation. We obviously know that the High Sparrow is up to something.
Yes.
He obviously, he wants people to be, to repent their sins and whatnot, but he is a schemer as well. Yeah. What's his end goal?
I really think that he wants, to some degree, a theocracy. And even if, and keep the crown in place as a puppet or whatever, but he's got an army that is the biggest in King's Landing that answers to him. He now has the king and the queen, at least superficially, on his side. And so I think that, he's playing the Game of Thrones in his own way, where he wants to be the head of the snake and the puppet master behind the scenes, even as the king and queen nominally remain in power.
My theory, which was kind of discredited in tonight's episode when he was hounding Marjorie about an heir, I was thinking that he was scheming to get Tommen to basically renounce Jaime, which he did.
Yeah.
And then basically he was going to assassinate Tommen. And if Tommen had renounced Jaime, like he did, Tommen has no heir to the throne.
Yeah.
No direct line of succession. So the throne could pass to the High Sparrow. And that's just like the craziest Game of Thrones power play ever. Is getting the king to trust you, getting him to say, F you uncle and or dad. And then, the High Sparrow just takes over. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's a bit tinfoily at this point. But I'm excited to see what's going to happen in King's Landing because there are a lot of moving parts there.
I do think that he can probably wield more power if he's not the face of it,
Yeah.
And he knows, like, everyone knows Tommen isn't very bright. And so if you get him to do whatever you tell him to do, why kill him?
Yeah. And he has the most power in basically the Seven Kingdoms at this point.
Yeah.
So moving on, I'm going to kind of go rapid fire on this one because we don't have a lot to talk about. Dany made a kind of power play move and found Drogon and then declared everyone her blood riders. My question is, how do her two blood riders that she already has that have been around with her since day one feel? They've got to feel pretty betrayed at this point, right?
Yep. But at the same time, they're not really they're not very useful as advisors anymore.
Right.
And so to some degree, when you look at the cost and benefit of getting this entire horde to additionally versus pissing off two people, albeit people who have been with you from the beginning, I think that you have to make that move.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really don't think it matters at this point because we haven't seen those two blood riders since probably end of season 2 or something like that. So I think that it's going to be a good move because she had to convince those people to go across water somehow. And she did it by getting a freaking dragon and then screaming, "You're all my... just come with me." And it would be almost anti-Dothraki for any of them to say no.
Right.
So
right. And people follow power, and someone on top of a dragon is projecting a lot of power.
So that's all I really wanted to touch on with Dany because she only had the one scene in the past 2 episodes, which I am grateful for because it would have detached a lot from everything that's happened.
Yeah.
This point before we get into the really big hitting questions, I want to talk about the Greyjoys and their kind of complex situation going on. Let's talk first about Euron.
Yes.
I guess, how are they going to build all those ships if there are no trees on the island?
That is an excellent question. And how are they going to get to places where there is forest when all the ships have been taken?
And how did Euron win the Kingsmoot, and then Asha and Theon had enough people to take all of these ships with them?
Yeah.
You have to think it's like 10 people per ship, probably.
No,
And
they've
there
got
was-
skeleton crews and just, I don't know.
Yeah, I want to say it makes sense because I really love the Iron Island storyline in the books, but I don't know. I don't know what's going on. We're in uncharted territory.
Well, and it's interesting because in a lot of ways, Euron has more to offer. So, like, at this point, they established in this episode that they're racing for the same objective, right? They're both going to try and bring ships to Dany and strike an alliance and then come back to Westeros.
Right.
But Euron, on the one hand, has more to offer. He's now the rightful king of the Iron Islands. He has much more experience in the world, having traveled as much as he has, and has a lot more military experience and things of that nature. But how can he win the race when he doesn't have boats and Yara and Theon do?
Right. I'm kind of curious to see if he'll just get a crew and get on Silence, which is a really insanely fast ship, and make it all the way to, I think they're in Volantis at this point. I couldn't really tell, but yeah. The Greyjoys plotline will be interesting in the next 3 episodes, and I'm actually really excited to see what's going to happen.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the only ways, like, you think about kind of the forgotten Iron Islands always lashing out and wanting power, but no one really cares that much, and their rebellions are crushed. And so, you know, it kind of takes the place of a big alliance that was being formed in the books that the show kind of didn't touch. It's another major but forgotten house aligning themselves with a potential new queen.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't even want to touch on the missing plotline from the books because I'm really sad that it's not in the show and that they just completely messed it up.
Yeah.
Moving on to the first of the major points, the war in the north. We saw a lot of scheming tonight. We saw, what was it? The Glovers, the Mormonts, and that's it, right? Those are the only 2 we saw. So we got to see Lady Mormont for the first time, who is 9. She was just being a total boss to, you know, everyone in the room. What are her odds of making it to the end of the season?
Right, she's a likable character. Those never survive.
Yeah, exactly.
I would say pretty high just because I don't think anyone cares that much about Bear Island.
Yeah, because they offered, what was it, 62 men?
Yeah.
So, yeah, who cares?
As someone on Twitter put it, a football team.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and it's out of the way. It doesn't have a lot of tactical significance. I think that, and it's not like she's going to go into the field with her men. I think she's probably pretty safe.
Yeah. I did forget a point. We're going to come back to it, though.
Okay.
How does Davos keep finding himself in the position where he has to persuade people to side with someone? Because that seems to be his role ever since he was introduced to the show in season 2.
Right. Just lucky, I guess. No, it is interesting that he's following this series of kind of doomed and underpowered leaders. But I think that goes to the nature of his lordship, right? That the old established houses aren't going to have use for someone who was literally just given a lordship, whose house has no history, little wealth, etc. So he's going to have to align himself with kind of lesser houses and lesser people, and those alliances by nature are more fragile because those people don't have the same degree of power.
Right. I am more curious to know where Lady Melisandre is during all of this.
Yeah.
Because she disappeared.
Yeah, well, and she's not going to stay at the wall alone, I don't think.
And she wanted to follow John wherever he went because in her eyes he's Azor Ahai.
Right.
So
I guess, though, they can't bring her into the halls with her because it's the North and they all worship the old gods and they can't be seen with a red priestess.
right. I'm just
I'll be curious to see how all the armies and lords react when they get back to camp and she's there.
right. Yeah. I think I had one last. Santa's letter was obviously to Littlefinger.
Yeah.
He's going to swoop in at the last minute and take out the Boltons. But how much do you think? Or actually, let me take that back. I'm guessing season 6, episode 9 is going to be Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah.
I don't have that confirmed, but what minute mark? Because we're doing this now. At what minute mark is Littlefinger going to come in and save the day? Uh-oh. I completely just lost Paul. Crap. Anyways, I was thinking like 35 minutes in. Let me see if I can. Oh, there he is. His face is there at least. Oh, there he went again. I think it's going to be like 30 or 35 minutes in that we'll see Littlefinger show up because Game of Thrones has the tendency to leave you hanging until the last minute, like they did with Jon Snow's resurrection. So it'll be interesting to see when he comes in with his army, and and seeing Robb and Aaron come in too will be a lot of fun. I'll kind of circle back to a point we missed earlier. We completely forgot about the Riverlands in this episode. Not that it was a forgettable scene, it was just there was so much else going on. To kind of talk about, I guess, Jaime's kind of power play with the Blackfish. He had a parlay with him, and they were talking about saving lives. And the Blackfish is like, "I'm going to die in here. All my men are going to die in here." Jaime asked him what the point of it all was, and he was like, "I wanted to size you up." But what was the exact point of all of it? Because I'm pretty sure the Blackfish knows who Jaime Lannister is. He's probably seen him before. Actually, I think he's definitely seen him before. So I'm just really curious to see what happens with him in the future. I'm going to check in on Paul here. Send maybe another invite. And let him know I sent the invite. But I'm just really happy to see Jaime back in the Riverlands, and we obviously are going to see Brienne and Pod there the next couple episodes at least. Hopefully we can get him connected. Oh, that's not what I wanted. I guess we're gonna cut this one short, unless he can get in the next minute or two. I'm really sorry about the technical difficulties, and fuck, we might just have to do it all again. Yeah. So, actually, you know what? We'll do a part 2 because I think we can work this out. We'll be back though. I'm really sorry about the technical difficulties, but I look forward to seeing you in part 2. Until then, so long.